All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Awesome. So we made it. 4-week manager challenge, week 4. Can't believe it. It's already October 1st. Building high-performing teams. So putting everything together that we've learned throughout these last 4 weeks, that will be the focus of today's session. So I really want to just thank everyone's dedication to spending September to growing their careers and really helping us make this program even better. Your feedback and comments have just been really tremendous, and I'm really looking forward to sharing it with the broader GitLab community over the next week or two. So let's recap of all the great things that we've done. It was kind of like scaling a mountain. Hopefully it didn't feel like that with all the work we asked you to do, but you know, a lot of the principles that we reviewed over the last 4 weeks were really scratching the surface of foundational managerial skills. And there's so many other things and topics to really learn and hone in on, you know, for your own careers as you develop. And, you know, the focus of this program was really around foundational skills. And in week 1, it was really around getting to know your team. We used social styles to have difficult conversations. Week 2, it was coaching and trust. Week 3, we talked about building an inclusive environment. And then week 4, we're going to put it all together to develop high-performing teams. So in this session, we're just going to analyze and describe what makes a high-performing team at GitLab. We're going to learn about the predictable stages of team development. Hopefully everybody here has been referencing the team performance model during the daily challenges from this week. And then we're going to practice team startup and team tune-up activities to achieve high performance at GitLab. We're going to spend the most of the time on our final activity, and I'm going to spend a couple minutes here just going through some learning content. So what makes a high-performing team at GitLab? You know, these are pulled from a lot of the comments that you all posted in the issues, but I was thinking, you know, one thing that I think is a central theme to high performance at GitLab, and it's really around this first point. It's building trust and enabling a psychologically safe environment. I feel like a lot of, you know, some of these other factors you can't achieve unless you have that trust-based relationship in a safe setting. It's going to be hard to live your values and iterate and achieve results if you don't have that trust with your team members, you know, and your leaders. So I want you to think for a moment. I know we have like varying levels of, you know, managerial experience on this session, and some of us have had formal training and some of us haven't. But I want you to imagine managing a team without a map or any formal training at all. You know, what would you do? How would you know how to lead your team to perform at a high level? I don't know. Think about that for a moment. Well, you know, using the challenges this week, we went over the team performance model, and I'm going to walk through it with you step by step. So the team performance model was developed by I think a couple of management scientists. They both have like PhDs in organizational behavior, and they put this together using like comprehensive research. And, you know, I want you to think of the analogy of like a pendulum swinging, like going back and forth. And that's really how to use this model. And then the first stage, it's orientation. You know, why are we here? What is our purpose? What's our identity as a team? I know for learning and development, we've got a really clear-cut identity and sort of mission statement of what we want to achieve. So as a manager, you know, when new team members come on board, when you mobilize your team, really being really clear on why are you here? What is your mission as an organization, as a team? So trust building. We spent a lot of time in the challenges talking about trust building, how to build those relationships with people on a personal and a professional level. And, you know, you can't achieve success if you don't trust each other. So step 3 is goal clarification. You know, what are we doing? What is our goals? If you don't have clear goals on what you want to achieve and a shared vision, it's going to be really hard for your team to operate. I know for me, I've struggled on teams when I don't have clear goals set on me by my leadership. So commitment, how will we do it? So once you've established a goal, you've built trust, and you know why you're here, it's how are you going to actually do the work? And that's really around assigning roles and responsibilities, being really clear on what those are, what resources you're going to need to get the job done, what tools You know, I know for L&D, we use a lot of different tools to do our work, writing out what those are. And then implementation, kind of who does what, when and where. And this really gets down to like processes that you've defined in the handbook, you know, KPIs and metrics. You know, a lot of teams get stuck. Actually, I shouldn't have done that. But a lot of teams get stuck sort of in this valley of despair right here. So looking back at that analogy, they're kind of going back and forth between goal clarification, commitment, and implementation before they can reach high performance. And once you achieve high performance, what does that look like? So it's surpassing results, it's operating at a really high level, it's spontaneous interaction. I know for me, when I've been on high performing teams, people are really creative. They bring outside of the box solutions and sort of proposals. Everyone's operating at a really high level. And then the last stage is renewal. And this is really important as a people leader, especially if your team is continuing to operate at a high level. It's recognition and celebrating those wins. There's nothing worse than being on a high performing team and not being recognized by your manager, by your leader on all the great work you're doing. So again, this isn't a linear model. You can kind of go back and forth between the different stages. You know, different projects can be at different stages, different teams, depending on who the personnel are, can be at different stages within the model. If you have a new team member that joins your team, think about walking them through each one of these stages. You know, why are you here? Building that trust, you know, the goals. It's a really easy to use, you know, framework. All right, so let's get into the final activity. Woohoo. We're going to take everything that we've learned and we're going to apply it to leading a high performing team here at GitLab. And so I provided some directions, but I'm going to go through it with you all first. And so on the scenario on the slides, you're a new manager and you have 7 direct reports on your team. The team was created after a new department was stood up at GitLab due to an organizational realignment. Everyone on the team comes from a different office and no one has worked together before. There have been no team building activities to date. You know, using the model and your knowledge of what you learned during the 4-week challenge, what can you do to achieve high performance? And so here's some team details. And this is what you're going to do in your breakout activity. You're going to go through each stage and you're going to sort of define a few activities that you could do for each stage throughout the model. And just pretending like you're an actual manager, or you are a manager, but you're an actual manager leading this team, some of the activities that you would do. And I've put together an example on the following slide. It's also in the appendix. You can see the morning session, what they put on there, so you can reference that. I'll trust you not to copy, but, and don't feel like you have to have 3, you know, activities for each stage. If you only have 1, that's okay too, but come together as a group and discuss, you know, what are some things that you can do to reach high performance. So we've provided some slide templates in the deck. You'll work collaboratively and then we'll come together and share out. If the 25 minutes is too much, you can rejoin the room anytime. If you need more time, definitely let us know as well. So any questions? No? And there's a bunch of resources in the appendix as well as the high performing team page as well. So if you have any questions, let us know. Cool. This is like our capstone activity, our final project.
Cool. I'll put everyone in breakout rooms then. And group 1 will have slide 14 and group 2 has slide 15. I have your names on them already, so if you don't know what number you're in, your name will be on one of those slides. So I will open the rooms now.
So I know that was a difficult exercise. There's so many different things we can do at each stage, but would any group like to just give a high-level kind of overview of the activities that you've kind of outlined on your high-performance roadmap to share with the group?
Sure.
Sure. Awesome. Thanks, Craig. And I think you were group 1, right?
Yep.
Awesome.
Question. He came back laughing. Does that mean you were monitoring our madness and our process?
No, we were joking between JC and Samantha and I.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. How do you want me to give an overview? Just kind of run through these real quick. or?
Yeah, you can keep it pretty high level. You don't have to go into
Okay.
super detail, but
Yeah, we had an interesting cross section of experience here. So my other team members, Lindsay and Justin, can jump in if I get this wrong. So I came in with a newly formed team that had one very experienced engineer, and then we hired 4 more, and then got another team through a proposal, same thing, 1 engineer, hired 4 more. Justin came in as a manager with an established team, and Lindsay, she, I believe, has an entirely new team to even GitLab. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay, so we all drew from our various experiences and talked about what we do. So for orientation, we talked about creating a handbook that contains purpose, ID, who's who, and then get together with the team to make sure that they are part of building this vision and contributing rather than just being told. And one of the things that was offered when I joined was this thing called Fast Boot. We have a link to that there, where the team could get together from where they are across the globe, meet in person, come up with something that they deliver as a team within this, 3 to 5 day period, so that they have a win together. But there was also time explicitly cut out to meet and build as a team, just team building. And one of the big things that Lindsay brought up was, having a product overview from our product management counterpart as to the goals of the group or the stage that they are in. So they have an understanding of where this team is oriented, how they fit in the bigger picture. From stage 2, one-on-one discussions with the manager. In this scenario, we wanted to make sure there was continuity from the last manager, if that was available to us, like notes or even talking to the previous manager to make sure if there were any key conversations they were having with their previous team member, to make sure that that continued with the new manager. Some kind of group activity to get to know you, not work related. Identifying the first win so that the team has a win together, or they have a failure together, but it's a safe place to fail, and they can understand, okay, why didn't this work, and what can we do to make it better next time? And then making sure that the manager and team members have a clear understanding of career growth. Feel free to interrupt me at any point in time as I'm rattling all these off.
no, this is great. I love it.
Okay, goal clarification. We talked about OKRs being an interactive activity. So brainstorming, making sure, again, it's just not top down. You will do these things, and working with product managers to understand the roadmap and the needs of the customers. From stage 4 commitment. This is where we talked about identifying team processes and understanding the level of autonomy each team has within the guidelines that are outlined in our handbook from GitLab. So some examples we talked about: some teams use weighting in their engineering processes, and some teams don't, but that's okay, depending on the team level autonomy. Making sure we understand what the GitLab way of doing things are, and then as a team, review and iterate over time. And as I think it was Lindsay said, every time you have a new team member, you need to at least review and iterate what your team commitment is and how you do things, to make sure that it makes sense for everyone. And if it doesn't, then change it and make a new commitment as a team. And a lot of these kind of actually transition from one stage to another. There were a couple we identified as didn't make sense in just one stage. Then on stage 5 for implementation, it's important that you have a single source of truth for these processes and practices, so that everybody is viewing the same thing and can make updates into the handbook when you change your processes and practices, and building the KPIs to understand, make sure that what you're working on fits in with the greater GitLab standards and KPIs. And that's where we left off. We went deep on some of these, so we didn't have time to do the last 2 stages.
No, that's fine. And I'm curious, group 1, where from your experience do you think, teams get stuck on what stage, like that, or maybe or what stage do you think maybe some teams have the most difficulty with that you've been a part of?
I think that, stage 3 around, well, sorry, maybe it's more stage 5, because maybe we categorize it as stage 3, those team processes and that constant iteration and review and improvement of those team processes is something that people kind of neglect sometimes. So as far as getting stuck, I would say it's around there.
Yeah, well, that's great. No, these are really great examples, and really appreciate your time and dedication. With the team processes around 5, it's kind of like you're constantly going back and forth between 4 and 5 and 3, and if you're never defining the process and implementing it because you're always iterating, it can feel like it's tough to achieve high performance, because it's always a new process coming out. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, group 1. All right, group 2. And again, we could, if you don't want to share, we could just, read it ourselves as well. I don't want to put anybody on the spot.
I can walk through what we have here.
Awesome. Thanks, Seth.
Yeah, so for orientation, very GitLab, create the handbook page. It defines vision, mission. Another thing that we put in here was not only why the team is here, but why individuals are there, and helping to understand, what people are trying to get out of their role at GitLab, which leads a little bit into number 2. And that was one of the things as we were putting activities in here, we found that a lot of these things would actually bleed between different stages. And then the third thing was, leaders sharing a story of why what we're doing matters, and so that's talking about the product that we're working on or the feature or whatever it is, and what impact that's going to have to the industry, to customers, so on and so forth. So creating this picture of where our work fits in. And then under trust building, we had weekly social calls that are time zone friendly, so that you respect where everyone is and make sure that they can join. Another thing is self-orientation, and I think we talked about this earlier in this program, which is making sure that the work that you're doing isn't just about you, but it's also, or more importantly, it's about other people and other teams. And when you go to bat, you're batting for other people, and you're not just focused on yourself. And that builds a lot of trust. In stand-ups, having the non-work or emotional questions, like, how are you feeling? What did you do over the weekend? What's your favorite food? That kind of stuff.
Right.
So that as people are filling out, like, hey, yeah, I'm working on this line of code or this MR or whatever, you also have a chance each day to learn a little bit about fellow team members. The communication handbook page, just encouraging people to review that and emphasizing that, making sure that people understand, how we communicate, why we communicate, that we continue to build trust through good communication. And then I think Craig mentioned the fast boot. For goal clarification, a handbook page that defines goals, contextualize the value of the team. That kind of goes back to what I was saying before, which is that storytelling, making sure that people understand, like, hey, if we get this product done, or if we get this KPI this way or that way, how that's going to have a big impact. And then clear performance indicators. People understand what needle we're trying to move. Under stage 4 for commitment, we had creating processes that give the team flexibility to make decisions within safe boundaries. So it's a lot of the process that we've talked about, and then allowing people to make the decisions and feel comfortable making those decisions. Assigning clear DRIs. Again, we put this under 4, but you could also argue that it's under number 5 as well. And then I think number 3 was everyone feels empowered to make contributions.
Awesome.
And for implementation, optimizing team member strengths. So, very quickly as the team grows, you start understanding someone's better at database work or back-end work or front-end work or design or whatever the case may be, and optimizing the team around those strengths. We also had one here called outline decision heuristics. And this is the idea that we create some guidelines that everyone can use when they're making decisions on a day-to-day basis. So one of the ones that we have is velocity over predictability. You may say, okay, the most important thing is performance this week, or most important thing is, more features, or, better user experience, or cleaner user experience, or faster load time. Creating those heuristics allows everyone to implement things a lot faster. Let's go to number 6, high performance. Making sure team members proactively unblock one another. That's a huge drag if people are just working on their own thing, but not unblocking one another. the team working on their own processes, and then everyone's able to work and contribute to the best of their ability. And then finally for renewal, we had celebrating. That's huge through the thanks channel or discretionary bonuses, recognizing team members in public and in private for their hard work, and then promoting the work that people do to senior leadership. So, saying, hey, this feature came out, it was built by so-and-so, and letting senior leadership know about that.
No, that's great. And I really like how on stage 1, number 3, you talked about leaders sharing a story of why it's important. I think sometimes, like, if you don't understand the why, how it's associated with the strategic objectives of the organization, it can be really difficult to like really formulate your goals and your plan if you don't understand how what your team does fits into the bigger strategy of GitLab. So no, these were both great. Does anybody have any questions for either team in terms of their roadmap? Do you all feel like this would be maybe something you would revisit as you kind of progress during your time at GitLab? Cool. And there's a lot of resources related to this model available out there that I can point you to if interested. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for spending time doing that. We wanted to try something different for the final group activity. So thanks for all the collaboration on building those slides out. I know it was a little bit of work, so really creative too. And we'll post these on the challenge page for all of GitLab to see. All right, so as we wrap up our last 2 minutes here in the challenge, 4-week challenge, any big outstanding questions or any while we're on the call together? No. All right, well, I will go ahead and summarize everything. So you've done your 4 weeks. Hopefully everyone's worked through the challenges. If you haven't, we're saying until Wednesday to complete them. If you need more time, definitely just reach out to us. We'll plan to send out a certificate next Thursday. Post this certificate on your LinkedIn profile. Publicize it to your community that we're kind of, piloting this new kind of manager enablement program here at GitLab. Get the word out. And again, we invited everybody to a retro next week. So if you have, comments or suggestions on how we can improve and you want to discuss in a synchronous way format, we can do that. So I know it was a lot of material, and we really appreciate your dedication to everything as we've piloted this. Cool. Well, give yourselves a round of applause, maybe a pat on the back. So awesome. Great work, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for all the materials and great training. This was really good. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Craig. Appreciate you participating. Thanks, everyone.